Hey, everybody. My name is Eric Herrenkohl. I lead the executive coaching practice here at Achieve Next. And I want to walk you through today a quick summary of the zero risk assessment that you've received, just so you're able to digest some of the findings prior to speaking with us further about your results. So let me go ahead and share a couple of things. I just want to start to begin with, rather than just starting with your report. Let me just start with a quick overview of the assessment and what it measures. One of the things I really like about this tool is that it measures how we think. Many assessments and good assessments measure how we behave, how we take action. They measure our motivations, what spurs us to act versus not act. Those tools are good. This tool looks at kind of a few peels of the onion down at how we think. And it looks at that in 6 different dimensions, external and internal. So let me just give you a very quick summary of this. Then I'm going to jump into the report. I'll actually show you what you're looking at and try to connect some dots together here in short order. So first of all, the assessment that you're going to have on yourself is going to talk about external and internal thinking. So external is world thinking here. Internal is self-thinking, otherwise known as how do you view the outside world, and then how do you view yourself. And in both of those aspects, we're going to look at this in 3 different ways. We're going to look at it in terms of intrinsic, which is how do you value people? Extrinsic, which is performance and practical thinking, looking at the practicalities of good, better, best, tangible, right in front of you thinking. And then systemic is thinking about mission and goals and how things should be, your expectations for how things should be. So I'll come back and tie this all together in just a moment, but let me do this. I'm going to move from here, and then I'm going to actually pull up a sample report, and I'm just going to walk you through page by page for the report that you will have in front of you. So cover page, obviously. The first page of this, let me scale this back just a bit. The first page of this is basically an executive summary of you according to zero risk. And if you've taken assessments, there's almost always some kind of paragraph, couple paragraphs that is like this. This gives you the overview of what the assessment is seeing. I always say that this is about people. This is not the Hubble Space Telescope, where we measure things down to the 9th decimal. Is every single thing in here going to be absolutely accurate? No, that's not the point. But what I would invite you to do is to read through this and underline and highlight things that you particularly agree with, and then underline and highlight anything that you either don't understand or that you disagree with, and then we'll be able to talk about that further. From here, we move into the candidate detail. And this is where we're going to be into these 6 different dimensions that I touched on just a moment ago. We're going to start with the external world, and this is externally intuition and empathy, otherwise known as how do you focus and view other people? How do you focus and view on other people? Now, one of the things I just want to explain right off the bat here is for the competitive among us, we all think, well, 0 is bad, 10 is good. And if I can get all 10s, I'm going to be crushing it. Actually, the way this assessment works is it's a little bit more of a curve, if you will. We think about it as a curve where the curve kind of comes up and then it comes down. An ideal score on this assessment is a 6 in any one of these aspects. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how these all tie together in a moment. But a 6 is a perfectly clear score, meaning you are perfectly, when it comes to intuition and empathy, you're perfectly clear and balanced in your understanding of other people. You don't tend to underweight their importance as separate individuals. You don't tend to overweight their importance. You really see people as truly who they are. That would be a 6. Then scores that are below that tend to underweight that aspect, tend to see people less as individuals and more maybe as their functional roles. And scores of above 6 tend to really emphasize, possibly even overemphasize, individuality, the uniqueness of other people and their emotions relative to other aspects that we're discussing. So I'm giving you a lot of information here. You don't have to capture all of it. I just want to give you kind of a preview of coming attractions so that you can work your way through this report. So again, this is intuition and empathy. And then we get into strengths and weaknesses relative to this particular score in just focusing on this score, strengths, weaknesses, and best working environment. Go through that, identify things that you agree and disagree with, questions that you have, and then we move to the next one. So this decisiveness, again, we're staying focused on the external world. We just talked about how you view people. Decisiveness is how you view the practical world in front of you. How clear and focused are you on the things that are right in front of your eyes? Sometimes people are highly practically minded. They tend to focus on getting things done, getting tasks done, improving things right in front of them. Other people are going to be much more focused on people relative to that kind of detailed execution. And other people, as we'll see in just a moment, are going to be more focused on how things should be, rules, procedures, process, systems, that type of thinking. But for us right now, decisiveness or practical thinking is what we're focused on. Again, 0 to 10, with 6 being perfect clarity. You don't tend to underweight or overweight the importance of what's right in front of you and focusing and getting things done. Scores that are above or below that, and all of our scores are going to fall above or below that in some of these aspects at least, then make up our own unique profile. Based on having in this sample report, based on the fact that this individual has a 4, these are the strengths, weaknesses, and then best working environment associated with that score. To keep going, and again, we're in the third of 3 aspects of our external thinking, our external focus, adherence and organization, where we've already talked about how attuned are you in terms of people, and how focused are you in terms of practical thinking. This is now, when it comes to the external world, everything outside of you, how focused are you on how things should be? Sort of absolutes. And this includes plans, structure, analysis, systems, process, rules, regulations. You understand what I'm saying? How much of that is your focus relative to more practical thinking? How do I get things done right, day to day? Or how does this impact other people? Again, same scoring system, 0 to 10. 6 is perfect clarity. And then we look at your strengths, your weaknesses, and your best working environment given that score. Okay, so we're through half of the fundamentals of the assessment. We've looked at how you view the outside world. Now we're going to come back and we're going to take really those exact same lenses. And I'm going to come back to this idea of lenses to when we wrap. But we're going to take that same lens and we're going to say, now we want to look, how do you view yourself? How do you look at and understand yourself? So self-view is sort of the internal version of external empathy. How empathetic and understanding and intuitively knowledgeable are you about yourself as an individual human being, as Eric or Jill or Bill, not your role, not your function, not your rules for living, but just you as an individual human being. How clear and how focused are you on yourself in that way? Same scoring model, strengths, weaknesses, and best working environment. Then we move to self-awareness. Self-awareness is the internal application of practical thinking. So if external practical thinking is how clearly do you see what is right in front of you relative to the external world, self-awareness is much more about how do you understand yourself relative to that practical external world. Do you really understand the practical aspects of your job and your other roles? Do you have a strong sense of clarity and competence about what you are doing, actually doing? And how important is that to you? And how much of your self-image does that kind of doing make up for you? Same scoring scale and strengths, weaknesses, and best working environment. And then finally, self-expectations. This is that same kind of black and white thinking that we talked about externally, where externally this is talking about how do you view how things should be done outside. How about now, what are your self-expectations, your black and white clarity of expectations around your own rules, principles, goals, and expectations for how you are and how you will act in the future. Is that a 6, perfect clarity? Is that a 9? In this case, it's a 9. It's a very strong emphasis. Is it below a 6? That's going to be less of an emphasis on this particular aspect. And then the same fundamentals here that we've already discussed. A couple more pages just to talk you through quickly. And I know I'm fire hosing you, but you can pause me anytime you want. Types of reasoning. Again, this is fundamentally an assessment about how you think. So one of the things that comes out of it is, how do you tend to reason? Are you more analytical, intuitive, or unconventional? Analytical, fairly self-explanatory. Is somebody who's a linear thinker. You tend to work through the life and work as an equation, kind of see what you get at the end. There you go, there's your answer. Versus somebody, D, E, and F, who's more intuitive, meaning you tend to be more of a feeler. How does this feel? Does this feel right? Is just my gut sense about this? What does it tell me? Versus somebody who is unconventional. Many people talk about being out of the box thinkers, but not that many people actually are. If you're an unconventional or out of the box thinker, these forms and frameworks that everybody uses to get to answers, that's not how you get there. You get there, but that's not how you think. Where do you fall into, which of these 3 categories do you fall into in terms of your reasoning? And then again, strengths, weaknesses, and working environment implications. And then finally, attention balance. And this is looking at your direction and your balance in terms of where do you tend to focus, where do you tend to get your energy, where are you most effective or ineffective in operating? Do you tend to be outer directed? In this sample report, this individual is more outwardly directed. So this is indicating that this individual tends to be more focused on what others think about him or about her than about what he or she thinks himself or herself. Versus a balanced perspective, just kind of self-explanatory, versus inner directed, which is what this individual would really care about most in terms of how they think is, what do I think? That's more important to me than what other people think. With the exact same framework, strengths, weaknesses, and best working environment. So just to conclude here, I'm going to do one more thing. I want to go back to this slide that we started with. And I'll give you kind of a quick framework for how we're going to talk about this as we move forward. I don't know if there's actually a thing such as trifocals, but that's kind of what we have here. Bifocals, we know what those are. It's glasses where you have a different lens in the top versus the bottom. Well, with this zero risk, we really are talking about how do you view the world through trifocals, and then how do you view yourself through trifocals? Meaning, when you look at the outside world, you have 3 lenses, let's assume, in the glasses that you're wearing. And those 3 lenses, at the top, it's about how clearly and how much focus you put on people. The middle lens is how clearly and how much focus you put on practical thinking right in front of you. And then the bottom piece of the lens is how clearly and how focused you are on systems, process, procedure, and rules. And what ends up happening is each of us has a slightly different lens because we have a different combination of clarity when it comes to people, performance, and mission and goals. And it's that sum of that external lens that really defines how we think about the outside world and has significant implications for how we operate and how others perceive us and how we engage and interact with other people. And when we can understand that lens, when we can get some self-awareness and clarity about ourselves and how we look at the external world, that really can help us, because that self-awareness then can allow us to emphasize our strengths, work on our areas of relative weakness, and be intentional about where we're going to put our focus. Because that really, in the end, is a lot about what this is about, is clarity, how clearly we see things, and focus, where do we focus our attention? And the exact same thing will then apply internally. Same three lenses, but this time it's self-view. How do we view ourselves just as human beings, and how do we value ourselves? Self-awareness. How aware and clear are we of our roles in life, of where we fit into the bigger world, of where we fit with other people, how they interact with us and how we interact with them? And then self-expectations. How demanding are we of ourselves? How clear are we on who we think we should be? And how does that impact our view in these other aspects? So what you're going to see as you start to work through this really is a very cool tool. And it tells us a lot. We're going to be able to leverage it a lot. And I hope you get some really good things out of it. And then we very much look forward to speaking with you further. Thanks, and speak to you soon.